The hives whisper. It was a bitterly cold evening when I returned home, the wind howling like a banshee through the skeletal trees lining the path to my childhood house. I stood there, heart pounding, as the familiar silhouette of the hoeing loomed before me, its once comforting presence now a fortress of memories laced with ridicule and scorn. I had been gone for years, banished for daring to pursue a path my family deemed insane, an obsession with insective cryptography that they laughed off as delusion. The door creaked open, and as if on cue, a hush fell over the living room. My mother, with her perpetually worried brows, was the first to speak. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was a mix of disbelief and something deeper, fear perhaps. I was a pariah to them once. Now I was something else entirely. "I've come to show you what I found," I replied, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I was no longer the wayward child they had dismissed. I was a herald of truth, a survivor of nightmares that had twisted and turned in the dark recesses of my mind. I had faced things that would make a sane person quiver, and had returned with knowledge that would chill their very souls. As I stepped inside, I felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on me. My sister, standing rigid near the fireplace, looked at me with eyes wide in disbelief. "You can't be serious," she muttered. "You're still obsessed with those bugs?" "Not just bugs," I said, my voice rising. "You don't understand. They're more than that. They communicate. They remember. I've decoded their language." Laughter erupted from my father, a harsh bark that echoed through the room. "What are you going to do next? Write a book on your little bug friends?" The derision was palpable, but I held my ground, my heart racing with a mixture of anger and anticipation. "Do you remember the stories? The ones you thought were nonsense? The old tales of the hive mind?" My words hung in the air like a heavy fog. "I've seen it. I've lived it." "You've lost it, that's what you've done," my mother interjected, her voice trembling with worry. "You're not well. You need help." But I was done seeking their approval. I was here to show them the truth, one they had mocked and dismissed. "Let me show you," I said, and pulled out a small glass jar from my bag. Inside, a swirling mass of tiny insects danced, their bodies shimmering under the light. They were not ordinary insects, but something darker, remnants of the hive I had uncovered. Their expressions morphed from skepticism to horror as I continued. "They're connected. They share memories, experiences. They remember those who disturbed their nests." "What do you mean?" my sister whispered, backing away as if the jar itself could reach out and grab her. "They remember you," I said, my voice dropping to a haunting whisper. "They remember your laughter, your scorn. They know everything." Suddenly, the lights flickered and a chill swept through the room. I felt it too, a presence that seeped into the air, thick and suffocating. The insects in the jar began to move, writhing violently, as if responding to a call only they could hear. My family recoiled, their faces twisted in fear. "What is happening?" my father shouted, his bravado crumbling as the temperature plummeted. I stepped back. Letting the jar slip from my fingers, it shattered on the floor, releasing a cloud of insects that swarmed into the shadows, their tiny bodies flickering like lost souls. The air thickened, buzzing with a sound that resonated deep within my core, a low hum that felt like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Suddenly, the walls of the house seemed to breathe, the very structure shuddering under an unseen weight. My family screamed, their voices rising in a cacophony of terror as the insects began to swarm around them. I stood transfixed, witnessing their horror as the swarm enveloped them, a living tapestry woven with threads of their disbelief and mockery. "Stop, please," my mother cried, as if the very act of pleading could save her from the consequences of her laughter. I wanted to reach out, to pull them away from the encroaching darkness, but I was rooted to the spot, watching as the swarm descended upon them. The insects didn't harm them, but they crawled over their skin, leaving behind a tingling sensation that seemed to awaken something primal within. They were being marked, branded by the very essence of the hive mind they had scorned. The chaos subsided as quickly as it had begun, leaving my family breathless and pale, witnessing the terrifying proof of my claims. I could see the realization dawning in their eyes. Their disbelief had summoned something far worse than ridicule. They had awakened a force that thrived on their scorn, a darkness that had lain dormant beneath their feet. "I've been trying to warn you," I said, my voice now a ghost of its former self. "This is what you dismissed. This is what you mocked." As the last of the insects retreated into the shadows, I felt the weight of vindication settle upon me. But it was bittersweet. I had achieved recognition in a world that had laughed at my obsession. But at what cost? My family stood trembling, their disbelief transformed into a haunting lesson learned too late. "I hope you understand now," I whispered, stepping back into the cold embrace of the night. The shadows enveloped me as I walked away, leaving behind the echoes of their fear, a family once filled with scorn, now forever marked by the very darkness they had refused to acknowledge. I had uncovered the truth, but as I ventured into the unknown, I couldn't shake the lingering feeling that the hive mind was still watching, still waiting. The world might now fear what I had exposed, but the real horror lay in knowing that sometimes the greatest monsters are born from our own disbelief.